The letter I never sent. I still remember the night I wrote that letter. It was a quiet Sunday evening, the kind of night when memories echo louder than music. The only sound in my room was the scratching of my pen against the paper. My hands were shaking, not because I was cold, but because I finally decided to put into words what I had been feeling for years. I met him 3 years ago, on my first day at the company. He was standing by the coffee machine, wearing that confident smile that could melt away anyone's anxiety. He turned to me and said, "You must be the new one." "Coffee?" I laughed nervously and said, "Only if you make it the same way you drink it." That was our first conversation. Simple, short, but unforgettable. Over the months, our friendship grew naturally. We shared long conversations during lunch breaks, jokes between meetings, and late night texts about work that always turned into deep talks about life. He made me laugh, even on my worst days. He was kind, thoughtful, and incredibly intelligent. He was everything I never knew I was looking for. But there was one problem. He wasn't mine. He had a girlfriend. He talked about her sometimes, and every time he did, I smiled and listened, even though my heart felt like it was slowly breaking. I told myself, it's just admiration. You just respect him. But the truth was, I was falling in love. One evening, we stayed late at the office to finish a project. The building was almost empty, the city lights shining through the tall windows. He sat across from me, tired but still smiling. He told me about his dreams, his fears, and how he once loved someone who didn't love him back. I wanted to tell him, I know how that feels, but I stayed silent. I just listened. From that night on, things changed. I started noticing the small things, how his eyes softened when he looked at me, how he remembered the smallest details about my life, how his messages became longer and warmer. It wasn't love we could admit, but it was there, quietly breathing between us. Weeks turned into months. His relationship began to fall apart. He would come to work with tired eyes, and I'd make him tea instead of coffee because he once said it helped him relax. One day, he looked at me and said, "You know, sometimes I think I met you too late." My heart stopped. For a moment, time did too. But before I could answer, he changed the subject, and I never brought it up again. Then came the day I wrote the letter. I couldn't sleep. Every thought led back to him, his voice, his laugh, his kindness. So I took a piece of paper and started writing. I wrote about how much I admired him, how his presence made ordinary days feel special, how his kindness had healed parts of me I didn't know were broken. I confessed that I loved him, silently, completely, and without expectations. I wrote that I didn't want him to feel guilty, that I just needed to let the words out before they drowned me. When I finished, it was past midnight. I folded the letter carefully and put it in my drawer. I told myself I would never send it. It wasn't meant for him. It was meant for me. Sometimes, writing is the only way to say goodbye to what we can't have. A few weeks later, he stopped coming to work. I heard he had taken a new job in another city. He left without saying goodbye. The day I found out, I went home, opened the drawer, and read the letter again. Every word felt heavier, like a memory I couldn't carry anymore. I cried. not because he was gone, but because I realized how much of my heart I had given without even asking for anything in return. Months passed. One morning, I opened social media and saw his wedding photos. He looked happy, genuinely happy. And surprisingly, I smiled. It hurt, but it also brought peace, because I knew that if I truly loved him, I had to want him to be happy, even if it wasn't with me. That night, I lit a small candle, opened the drawer, and took out the letter one last time. I read it slowly, whispering each word as if saying goodbye to a part of myself. Then I burned it. I watched the flames eat away the paper until it turned to ashes, and for the first time in years, I felt free. I realized that not every love story is meant to be lived. Some are meant to teach us about patience, silence, and the kind of strength that comes from letting go. Sometimes, the people who enter our lives aren't meant to stay forever. They come to remind us of what love feels like, so that one day, when real love finds us, we'll recognize it. And that was the story of the letter I never sent. A letter that carried my heart, my pain, and my healing, all in one. Moral of the story: not every love needs an ending. Some stories are beautiful because they remain unfinished. And sometimes silence speaks louder than words. What would you do if you loved someone you could never have? Share your thoughts below.